One of the questions that a lot of people are asking is, why does Donald Trump behave the way he does? And I think this is a reasonable question. You know, Bob Corker this morning talking about how essentially toxic Trump is, how he had been asked by people in the White House to intervene. Now, Bob Corker was, or is, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, so arguably within the Republican Party, he is the senior official, the senior guy when it comes to international relations. I mean, it would be Corker in Congress, or at least in the Senate, and Tillerson as Secretary of State, and arguably Nikki Haley over at the UN. That's basically our foreign relations face to the world. And Corker is talking about being asked by people in the White House to change things in the White House, and then he starts talking about World War III, that Donald Trump is leading us to World War III. But I think that there's a somewhat bigger and in some ways somewhat smaller picture here that we have failed to identify, and at least explicitly. Nobody wants to just come right out and say it. But I'm going to. Donald Trump is a racist and a bigot, and a sexist and a misogynist. Period. I mean, why did he start off his week going after the black widow of a slain black soldier? Why can't he let go a slight from a black member of Congress? Representative Wilson. Why did he have to go after Maisha Johnson, the Gold Star widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson? Why did he kick off his presidential campaign by talking about how he was going to go after brown people from Mexico? I mean, the list actually is quite substantial. Why is he going after black NFL players day after day after day? Why did he go after black ESPN anchor Jameel Hill, to the point that, you know, got her a 2-week suspension? Why is he going after Megyn Kelly? She's a woman. See, it's not just black people Donald Trump doesn't like, it's women as well. For in Donald Trump's world, women are objects to be grabbed, to be used, arm candy, that kind of thing, but not fully human beings. And the same with people of color. I mean, this is a guy who grew up with his dad running apartment buildings in Brooklyn where he and his father were both explicitly preventing people of color from renting from them. This is where this guy started. And he said his personal Vietnam, he didn't go to Vietnam, but he had a harrowing experience that was just like Vietnam. What was that? Having sex with all those women in the 60s and not getting venereal disease. Yes, he said that. Why did he go after the mayor of San Juan, Carmen Yulín Cruz? Well, yeah, she spoke poorly of him, but she's also female and Hispanic. Why did he go after Khizr and Ghazala Khan, the couple? Well, the husband was the one who spoke up first at the Democratic National Convention. Former lifelong Republicans. Why did he go after them? Because their skin's darker than his. Because their religion is different than his. This guy is a bigot. Now, Nate Silver over at 538, he was trying to figure this out. You know, why does Trump do this stuff? How does it help Trump that he lies about a Gold Star widow? And why does he hang on to that lie? Some think that he's playing 3-dimensional chess, or 4-dimensional, or 8-dimensional chess. You know, he's doing this to activate the white racist base in order to get Republicans elected in those states where you've got a large contingent of white racists, which is pretty much every state in the United States, and therefore there's going, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think so. I think he's just a bigot. He's bigoted against women, he's bigoted against people of color, he's bigoted against people who are not Americans. And in the case of Puerto Rico, he's bigoted against people who are Americans, because in his mind, they're not really Americans, they're Puerto Ricans. But Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. These people have U.S. passports. They're U.S. citizens. It should become a state. The same with the U.S. British Virgin Islands. Why is Puerto Rico not a state? Because the Republicans won't allow it. Why won't they allow it? Because Puerto Rico consistently votes Democratic. Same thing with Guam, same thing with U.S. British Virgin Islands. These are all U.S. territories that could easily become states and should have representation. Why doesn't Washington, D.C. have representation, for example? You know, our license plates in Washington, D.C. say taxation without representation. Why is that? Because even though the city of Washington, D.C., or the District of Columbia, has more people in it than several states who have 2 senators and members of Congress, is that it's majority black. And it's largely Democratic voting. Even most of the white people in Washington, D.C. vote Democratic. Republicans, we can't have that. Then we might have a representative country. So anyhow, Nate Silver was trying to figure out why, you know, he went through all these different scenarios over at 538 about why Trump would start his week this week. Why he would start his week off by going after a grieving, pregnant, mother of 2, soon to be 3, widow of a soldier who died in what was apparently a botched operation that was botched by the Trump administration. Well, number one, of course, obviously, you know, it takes the focus away from the botched part of all that. Trump really, you know, I mean, he saw what Republicans did around a botched response to a raid in Benghazi during the Obama years. A botched response, by the way, that might not have happened if the Republicans had not cut funding for security for the State Department. But that's a whole nother discussion. He saw how Republicans politicized the death of 4 Americans. You know, an ambassador, a couple of contractors, and a State Department employee. He saw that, how that was politicized, and he said, you know, I can't let them do that to me. Niger is not going to become my Benghazi, and so how do we direct attention away from it? Oh, but let's go after Maisha Johnson. Now that's one of the more common theories. It was one of the theories that Nate Silver examined. But he looked at it and he says, you know, this doesn't explain it. There's too much political risk associated with what he's doing. Well, Nate Silver just ended up scratching his head. And I think that's because Nate is a fundamentally decent guy, and we all, you know, we look at other people's behavior, and you know, if we don't have a wide range of experience interacting with people who are on the bizarre end of the spectrum, we tend to assume everybody, you know, basically puts forward, you know, exactly what they're doing. Nate Silver came to the conclusion that Donald Trump must be either irrational, incompetent, or bigoted. Well, he's not irrational. I mean, he may seem that way to you or me, but there's an absolute rationality to everything Donald Trump does. It comes back to his need for constant love and approval and his dislike of people who are not wealthy and white and male. And which means that Nate Silver's third option, bigoted, bingo, you got it. So at what point are we going to just acknowledge this? I mean, it took the press weeks after Trump got sworn into office to start using the word lies. How long before they start using the word bigoted? I'm betting that they are not going to, because they're afraid that Republicans will start refusing to show up for their weekend talk shows and things, and then the ratings will go down, and the networks will be in trouble, and they'll lose money, and they're, you know. But how long do you think it's going to be? And do you think that it's, you know, you think I've got a good theory here, or is this just crazy? That Trump's primary motivation is bigotry?